Good morning for those of you stateside, and good afternoon for those of you in the UK and Europe. Thank you very much for joining our most recent episode of our Spotlight series. Today, we're going to be exploring analytics and customer journeys. And so I'm really delighted to be joined by my colleague, Sergio Gomes. So the plan for today is that I'm going to be taking you through a bit of an introduction into our view on customer journeys, us generally at Relative Insight, and also how our analytics, and more specifically our text analytics, is being pulled into what is very much the zeitgeist of CX in 2024 customer journey mapping. Following that, Sergio is then going to take you into where the rubber meets the road. Being a senior researcher here at Relative, he's going to be able to talk to you about some specific examples, some of the challenges and some of the opportunities in this area. Finally, we will then take questions from the floor, and we hope to give you some time back in that we're going to move through this all quite snappily. So settle in for the most recent episode of Spotlight. Here we go. So very quick introduction for those of you that are not familiar with Relative Insight. We're a text analytics company, and our overall aim is to elevate text analytics to provide business value. Our story began in quite an unusual way, in that we were initially used in criminal linguistics, believe it or not. What we would do is we would, by comparing individual conversations online, we would very simply be able to identify people that sounded just a little bit different by comparing those conversations. And ultimately, we were able to identify where there was masquerading behavior online, i.e. when someone actually wasn't a 14-year-old girl, but was a 40-year-old man doing a very sophisticated impression, which is obviously very important work. We're very proud of that heritage, and that work continues up at Lancaster University, where the technology was born. However, Relative Insight, the technical and commercial entity that you may know well, or you may be meeting for the first time today, is now applying that same comparative text methodology, so that same analytical process. But we tend to work in two areas: consumer analytics and customer experience. And arguably customer journey mapping, or customer journeys, which is effectively where a customer interacts with a brand or a service over time, kind of covers both. So when it comes to our text analytics in those two areas, we tend to ingest or analyze data from our customers that comes from these four sources. The first, surveys, is actually the dominant use case, and we see surveys popping up across multiple points in the customer journey, which we're going to refer back to later in this presentation. Social media as a CX tool, and so I mean customer service and interaction across things like Facebook and X. Reviews, so thinking about things like Trustpilot, which is a big part of customer loyalty, and then customer service, which tends to be chatbots, and voice. So these are the areas that we tend to analyze. And what we're looking at mainly across the customer journey is we're taking these types of text data and we're analyzing them to help you understand why hard metrics like NPS and CSAT move up and down. Now, knowing that those scores like CSAT and NPS, which are probably a very big part of your customer journey, are moving, isn't always enough. And what we found over the last couple of years is that it's very important for our customers not only to know why people are either satisfied or dissatisfied, but for them to know in time to be able to make a change. So, for example, within some of our sports customers, if the PA system is too loud or too quiet, it's no good them knowing that at the end of the game. They need to know at half time so they can make a change. They need to know with the detail to be effective. So, for example, if you're a theme park and you have a parking issue, which car park is it that's flooded? Where exactly is the problem, so that your operations team can address it in real time? And then the third is that make sure that the right people and systems know why. So it's no good that your customer data is providing all of the stories for you as a restaurant group, but if the regional manager for the restaurants that have the problem isn't made aware, then it's impossible for her to be able to take action and improve those operational differences. The final two is it's vital for our customers to know why, but also to know why their CSAT or NPS scores are moving up and down with evidence and metrics, so that when they take that to their business as insights professionals, when we take these findings to the wider business, they're very easy to defend. They're very hard to pick apart. They're seen as robust, believable, and so people then trust them and use them to take action. And then the final thing is, with the rise of AI over the last, let's say, 3 to 5 years, we've been able to start to do this incredible, robust work at a scale previously not very feasible or possible without some of the AI tools that we've been able to weave into our platform. So if we talk about relative insight and the customer journey map or the customer journey, first thing to do is to establish, for those of you that are new to relative, but also for those of you that are maybe not completely familiar with what we do, how we actually support your customer journey mapping process. I think that we can all agree, for the attendees at this webinar, that mapping a customer journey is not only table stakes within a modern business that's customer focused, but also an absolutely essential part in truly understanding your brand, your experience, your customer experience, and therefore being able to influence it. And so what we wanted to do is kind of give you this in two ways. The first is like, how does relative insight like generally support that? So on the left-hand side in the gray box, what we've got is 3 different types of data, categories of data that we tend to analyze. So customer experience, voice of the customer, customer journey data. What we're doing is we're automatically taking all of those different data sources. And if you remember from some previous slides, we're talking about surveys, we're talking about chatbot, we're talking about customer contact data. We automatically ingest that data. And because we're tending to look at this longitudinal, think week on week, think month on month, what we can start to do is create comparisons between either over time or between different brands, different business units, different locations, different geographies, different regions, you name it. And so what we can start to do is, by creating those comparisons on a month-on-month basis, not only can we help you understand why those key scores like NPS, CSAT are moving up and down, we can also help you report that in really clear detail. And most importantly, we can give it back to your organization in a format that's not only are they familiar with, but also they can take action with very quickly. And that's what we've got over on the right-hand side in the gray box. First thing that we do, and the most effective method that we have found, is that we produce reports from the dashboard that are triggered through email. So whether you are a major entertainment brand, whether you're in the restaurants, whether you're in theme parks, sport, you name it, what we're able to do is on a regular basis, be it monthly, after each game, on a quarterly basis, whatever the reporting cycle is that you operate, we can put a detailed and robust report into your inbox every Monday, after every game, every quarter, whichever it is, which allows you, with minimal or no analytics time whatsoever, to be able to get to the crux of what is going well or not going well across your customer journey and your customer experience. The second thing we're able to do is serve that data back into your existing systems. So if you have things like Snowflake or Microsoft Azure, you're interested in enriching your customer data with tags so that you can learn more about your segments over time, then we can push that straight back into your existing system so you can do further analysis. And then the final example is that we can push this data into existing dashboarding systems. And the examples that come to mind are things like Power BI and Tableau, which tend to be the most numerous examples that we have. So if you have a leadership team that's already familiar with those tools, that's already used to seeing your reporting in those tools, we can then push that data through into those systems. So that's kind of how relative insight, how our programs of work run. Now what we want to do is put that across what could be seen as a very classic customer journey map. So many people on this call will have spent a great deal of time, money, and effort in very accurately and painstakingly, in some occasions, mapping your customer journey. Now, according to IBM in a recent study that they did across a number of American businesses, 47% of companies that mapped their customer journey then subsequently made no changes to that customer journey in the following 12 months. What that means is that is a clear indication that people are not learning from what they're seeing across their customer journey because they're not able to. And therefore, if their customer journey is fantastic, poor, or somewhere in the middle, they're not actually dynamic and they're not making changes. And that's why we feel that this webinar was really important, because we're obviously very analytics first. We understand the market is very focused on customer journey mapping, but actually what we've seen is some of our most successful customers, for when it comes to customer care, when it comes to customer loyalty, and when it comes to driving revenue out of a great customer experience, those two things are put together. So let's talk about the customer stages that we have at the top of this slide. First, inquiry, right? And I've put an almost arbitrary data source as the example here. So let's say that your inquiry stuff is typically run through chatbot, either on an app or on your website. You're welcoming. So you've brought a customer on board, you survey them at that point. Customer care is run through a CX system like, let's say, Genesis or NICE. Loyalty email through a loyalty program through emails. Cross-sell, upsell through social CX on Facebook and X, and then your repurchase or cancellation is all done through your CRM. Let's call it Salesforce. Now, I know that these are fairly arbitrary, but what I want to try and help you understand is that what we're able to do is pull the data from each of these different stages and help bring them all together as multiple signals to start to do what I talked about previously, which is help you understand from all of these different stages in your customer journey, why is NPS falling week on week on week on week, or month on month on month? Or why is your customer satisfaction across certain locations or certain business units underperforming consistently with others? Why is it that one product line has a particularly low score, or one part of your contact center has a longer call length, or fewer first-time resolutions on calls? And that's where the clarity that your business has gained through mapping your customer journey, if you bring that together with cutting-edge analytics from Relative Insight, we can start to help you guys move operationally on very detailed and in real-time findings, which will mean that not only can you improve your customer experience, you should be able to refine your customer journey and make material changes. So now I want to take you through a few examples before I hand you over to Sergio to dive into things in a bit more detail. So, as I said, philosophically, we see the world, as I mentioned, input, analysis, and output. So over on the left-hand side, you can see that we've got some examples of the vendors that we're used to seeing, be it InMoment, Medallia, Qualtrics, Question Pro, or SurveyMonkey. These are obviously survey examples. And as I mentioned, that's probably the most predominant or dominant data source that we see. A lot of our analysis is automated, so we're pulling that data in an automated way. We're organizing it, we're cleaning it. We're doing our comparison analysis that I talked to you about, and then pushing that data into some of the things over on the right-hand side, Power BI, Salesforce. Obviously, there's still some customers that are reporting in PowerPoint, and we see that if that's the way that the business is used to consuming this stuff, then they absolutely should continue to do that. Scoreboard is our email product, and then obviously Tableau is another example of where customers are dashboarding things up. So let's move into some recent customer examples. So the first one I want to talk to you about is Comcast. So this is the customer care stage in their customer journey. So they've onboarded customers, they're using Comcast on a continuous basis. And the data that we're absorbing here is the Xfinity Assistant, which is a chatbot that they've programmed. What we do is we produce a monthly report, which is reported out into Power BI, which then goes in front of leadership. And I think over the last 6 months, there have been some really interesting findings, but I've just got time to tell you about two. The first is that when we go back and when we look at the analysis that comes from those chatbots, 70% of customers that say that they're going to leave subsequently will actually not go ahead with that conversation if offered a discount. So 7 out of 10, our analysis showed that linguistically, if the chatbot immediately responds with, would you consider a discount? 7 out of 10 then click yes. in the chatbot conversation. And so what we were able to help Comcast understand is that, yes, this was fairly well understood in their industry, but what we also wanted them to understand is that actually this segment of customers maybe shouldn't be all that heavily considered when it comes to NPS measurement, because obviously they're attempting to gamify their monthly bills. And I think we've all been guilty of that in the past, but it's really interesting to prove that out in the data. The second thing that we prove very clearly is that outages, so when there is a problem with their Comcast service, we can actually show that if the chatbot and the experience is really slick, we have seen that actually lead to an increase in customer satisfaction scores because of having such a slick experience with Xfinity through the Comcast app. So what I want to try and state here before we move on is that the customer care stage in Comcast is actually a really, really important part of their customer journey map. And what we've been able to do is, through some detailed analytics over the last 6 months, not only have we been able to help them alter their chatbot, so the flow, what you see in what order, we've also been able to help them segment their customer base and learn more about their behavior on the chatbot. So moving into the next example. So we're now into the world of college sport. So Arizona State University, Sun Devils. So what we're looking at here is loyalty. As I'm sure you can imagine, college sport, really, really important to keep that fan experience extremely high, so that fans keep coming back to the stadium week in, week out, spending money on merchandise and tickets, etc. So the input here is Qualtrics post-game day, post-match day experience survey that goes out, that gets triggered out through Qualtrics. And what they're really interested in understanding is, why is it that some fans continue to come back? Why is it that there's frustration and some fans choose not to come back? Pretty obvious challenge there for these guys. And what we've been able to help them understand is that parking issues raise their head week in, week out. What we are also able to prove is that if we're able to trigger an email with either comp tickets for the next game, if you missed the start of the game because of your parking issues, that goes a long way. The other thing is also, we've been able to help the parking team on a semi-real time basis, be able to respond to which car park is having issues, what are the issues in that car park, and helping them resolve and bring their resolution time down by almost half. And so not only are we addressing the fans that have basically missed the beginning of the game because of parking issues, which is probably the most serious thing, we're also helping actually reduce those car parking issues on the day in real time. And then the second thing is fan experience opportunities in the 15 minutes leading up to the kickoff. So what we learned from those surveys is that there was a bit of a black hole in the 15 minutes between sitting at your seat and the game starting. And so what ASU have started to do is put up basically like highlight reels across the screens, as opposed to just using those advertising boards for static adverts. And people are loving those. There's quite a lot of discussion that it sparked, quite a lot of stuff actually jumping over into social media as well, where people are taking images of like kind of legendary or heroic moments from seasons gone by. And so that 15-minute window is actually now being used as a really positive thing to drive fan experience. And the final one, we're going to move into chicken and biscuits. So again, Bojangles, well known, well loved chicken and biscuits chain in the States. So again, we're looking at survey data here coming from their survey vendor of choice, which happens to be SMG. We're sitting squarely in the loyalty part, which is, again, just to be clear, probably the dominant part of the customer journey that we get involved with. And what we've done is, by analyzing regional feedback from different Bojangles restaurants, we've been able to help them understand that one of the areas when new franchises go live is that drive-through issues can be problematic. This tends to be because these are probably the most complex part of the restaurant experience. New franchisors find this very hard and very stressful to get right, and so they've actually upped the detail in the playbook that they use when launching new Bojangles franchises. And so what they've been able to do is drive down that drive-through failure rate because of the detail and emphasis they're putting on how to run the drive-through. So that's been really interesting, because the amount of money that actually failing franchises costs is staggering. And so wherever we can use analytics to help them understand the reasons that new franchises fail, greatly benefits Bojangles. And again, what we're doing is we're triggering out those reports on a monthly basis through email. And you'll notice that 2 of these examples are email. And the reason I chose that is because we're just seeing the power of email as a delivery method for insights. I know it sounds extremely old school, but senior people read emails. They don't tend to want to log into dashboards. And so we're seeing a massive lift in uptake of actually the insights that we're delivering by pushing them into email. And so that's been a real revelation for us and our customers over the last 6 months. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Sergio, who's going to take you through some more detail and some other examples.
Perfect. Thank you, James. So hi, everyone. So my name is Sergio. I'm a senior researcher here at Relative. I want to preface this by saying whether you're a fellow analyst like myself or whether you're a buyer of research or a user of insight, I think we can all really resonate with these 2 following challenges. The first really being that we're all really not having enough time, whether we're overseeing multiple programs of research or we're funding ourselves and perhaps operating with less capacity or support. And also, as companies are expanding their data input, this directly relates to an increase in workload. So I want to just give a bit more detail over the next few slides in terms of how you can use Relative to drive efficiency in that analysis process, as well as drive up the impact of the insights as well. So firstly, I want us to just think back to the original schematic we had around that overall customer journey map. And really just taking that first touch point, thinking about the inquiry stage. And I'm going to use the hospitality sector as an example. Now, in terms of the customer interface, and this is something I'm sure we'll all be familiar with, you might see a chatbot such as this. You'll be asked to provide some open-end feedback, and you might be asked to rate the interaction from 1 to 5. Now, as a business on the back end, you might see something such as this, a spreadsheet which captures the date of interaction, of course, the open-end feedback, the rating score of the interaction, and you might get other metadata such as, reason for stay. But now I want to think about ingestion into Relative Insight and how our tool helps this analysis process. So really at the first touch point of the data analysis, at that first point of data upload, what our platform is able to do is provide you a key overview of that quantitative data, as well as an AI summarization of that open form text at this first point of upload. So already you're getting that immediate view of some key insights and overview of this data point. Now, when it comes to the analysis itself, our platform is able to really easily highlight what the top topics, words, phrases, and emotions which exist within this data set. As well as thinking about comparison, we're also able to split this data to identify what are key differences, again, in those key linguistic features across topics, words, phrases, and emotions between promoters and detractors, between those higher scoring customer responses and the lower scoring. So really here, analysis at this first touch point allows us to understand what those key needs are and what the factors are that contribute to both positive experiences and potentially hidden pain points. Now, looking back at our customer journey, so we've talked about analysis within one touch point, but really where you get the most impact is where we conduct analysis across the entire customer journey. So identifying those key needs and those key pain points and really looking at how they evolve throughout the entire journey. And by looking at this evolution over the entire customer journey, this really gives us tangible action in terms of what we can take away for distinct parts of the business, be it optimizing payment and booking systems to highlighting specific training needs for your staff and personnel. Now, I want to think about a slight different example. So we have another customer that we work with in the home appliance space, where we help them with their CSAT tracking over time, and we analyze their customer service call logs. Now, the data itself looks a little like this. So we capture the date of the interaction, what they call the situation, so the reason for reach out. Of course, again, we're capturing that open-ended feedback, as well as a satisfaction score and the locality of that reach out. But in this instance, I want us to focus on that second column here. and that is the situation for reach out. So again, looking throughout the customer journey map, and we've talked about the importance of capturing data at distinct touch points. However, in reality, this isn't always the truth for everyone. And in this use case, for our customer in the home appliance space, even though we're only analyzing input from a customer service log, because we've got that information around the situation for reach out, we're still able to plot this against the customer journey map. Now, thinking back to those two lenses of analyses I've already talked about. So first, the importance of analysis at each touch point, identifying those key needs and pain points, as well as analysis across the entire customer journey and looking at how these touch points intersect and evolve over the journey. Because this program of work that we conduct with our customer forms part of an overtime tracking as part of the CSAT program, we're also able to deploy analyses over time. So again, we're able to highlight the differences in topics, word phrases, and emotions over time, which lets us understand how these customers' delights and frustrations track over time. We're also able to set up bespoke custom themes, which allows us to track specific topics of interest, be that machine complaints, payment issues, or waiting times when they're reaching out on these customer reach outs. Now, because we've set these bespoke themes, which we track over time, we're also able to visualize how these evolve over time on a quarterly basis. And not only this, we're able to overlay the customer satisfaction score to allow us to understand how these different pain points and delights are contributing to either rising or declining CSAT. Now, finally, when it comes to delivery, this can look like a number of formats. We briefly touched upon Accelerate AI, which allows us to really give us that summary of those key comparisons at a click of a button. And we've already talked about how increasingly a lot of customers are finding this useful, being sent out in a push out email for easy digestion. For a lot of our customers, we're also maintaining bespoke reporting in a more familiar PowerPoint format. However, we're able to use Accelerator AI to really supercharge our analysis process internally as well. So a lot of times, even when we're sticking to traditional PowerPoint reporting, we're using the AI tools at our disposal to really kind of cut down the analysis time for us. So that's the end of my section. So now I believe we have quite a bit of time to cover Q&A. So I'll hand back to James and see what questions we've got from the crowd.
Thank you very much, Sergio. So just to summarize before we dive into the couple of questions, I think that we started the session by talking a little bit about the fact that customer journey mapping is very much we see as one of the zeitgeists within CX for 2024. And most companies, if not all companies that we speak to and deal with on a daily and weekly basis, agree that this is a really important thing to do, and they will have spent money and time doing it. What we have learned, though, is the customer journey map often almost aims to simplify what is effectively extremely complex customer behavior into quite simple stages. And so again, our view is that without intricate analysis of that behavior, which is only really possible through the language exhibited, because there aren't many other things that your customer is giving up outside of whether they stay with you or not, whether they purchase or not, and that can be, again, too simplified. The customer journey map could, if we wanted to be really harsh, be made slightly irrelevant. And if we wanted to be slightly less harsh, could be less useful. And so not only do we believe that the customer journey map should be a living, dynamic thing, informed by analytics, we also believe that without analytics in it, it could serve to be overly simplified. So question time. I think that we've got two questions, which we can dive into now. So the first, which I will take, is that the question is, which touch point tends to be the most valuable for your customers when you add analytics to it? So the way that I'll answer this question is through the lens of NPS and CSAT, because I think that's probably the most scientific way for us to answer. And universally, this is onboarding. or welcoming, whichever phrase you tend to use, or you may use a different word or phrase. What we see is if the customer journey and customer experience is right, strong, in place, and accurate at welcoming and onboarding, we see that is the largest, scientifically, the largest driver of CSAT and NPS from a positivity or a negativity point of view. And so when there isn't analytics at the onboarding stage, the converse or the flip side is that could be fairly damaging. And if damage is done at onboarding, then or welcoming, then unfortunately it's reasonably hard to reverse that through your customer loyalty program. The second question is and Serge, I think that this is probably most relevant for you to answer. The second question is, you said about the scale offered by using AI. How much faster do projects tend to be compared with if you weren't using software?
Cool. No, I think that's a great question. I think it's hard to give a definitive kind of count of minutes or hours, but if we think about the thousands of data touch points that form the various feedback steps within the customer journey, I mean, we're talking easily days and days of manual analyses. Using software and AI, we can easily cut this down to hours, and certainly with the introduction of more recent AI advancements such as our accelerator AI, I think we're cutting those hours down to a handful of hours, if even that. So I'd be hesitant of giving a defined number, but really it's cutting down from days and sometimes weeks to do this type of work analyses, to getting an overview of the data in hours, if that at times.
Yeah. Thanks, Sergio. I think the key thing also there is that what we're really cognizant of is that analysis still needs to be kind of like, for want of a better phrase, sort of board proof, right? So what we can't have is analysis that isn't backed up by stats, and we need to show our working. And so although the time is being cut down significantly, we absolutely haven't moved on the kind of defensibility, robustness of that data. And so the next question kind of ties in quite neatly with that, which is how does our accelerator AI function relate to the customer journey map? Well, basically, as Sergio's mentioned, what we're able to do through accelerator is create detailed reports at the click of a button. And what this means is that if you put that in the hands of a talented analyst like Sergio, or the many wonderful people across all of our different customers, they're able to look at a really scientific summary. They're able to pull the key parts out of it, and with that kind of human in analysis, in a matter of a short time, using our accelerator tool, we're able to will vastly accelerate the rate of analysis. And our final question, before we let you find people get on with the rest of your day, is how many customer journeys should a mature organization develop? Now, thank you very much for this question. This is obviously a much more harder and a subjective one. But what I can do is I can just give a couple of examples. I think that what I've seen work really well is when we're coming along to an established organization that already has mapped their customer journey, is that they haven't overcomplicated things and they haven't made it too busy. So what I've seen as well is across a major life insurance company in the States, a major bank in the UK that probably spring to mind because I'm thinking about them this week, been working with them this week, embedding analytics into their customer journey program. What they've done is they've tried to limit themselves to one customer journey per product line, per business unit. And inside that customer journey, they have multiple forks, multiple branches, different journeys within one core journey. But what they haven't done is they haven't got simultaneous journeys within one product line or within one business unit. And I think that what that does is it allows people to take it seriously, to focus in on that. They understand that that's a single source of truth. Whereas in other organizations where I have seen multiple customer journeys per business unit, per product line, what it can do is lead to a little bit of overcomplexity, and then it can give people sort of an excuse maybe not to focus in on it too much. And then it's kind of its importance has been eroded slightly. So to get that answer in a nutshell, less is more for sure when it comes to successful customer journey mapping. Brilliant. So firstly, I'd just like to thank you all very much for taking the time out of your busy day to join us. We'll be sending around a follow-up, of course, and if you'd like to hear a little bit more, then please do get in touch with our team. And we do hope that you can come to the next Spotlight series, which will be coming up in roughly a month's time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you very much.